bad ideas. And he talks about his company, the Arctics. So this company was this kind of company that would help digitize or put about those art galleries. So he would help companies that sell art on person-to-person basis, help them digitize that, and they can buy it online. But then he talks about why that failed. The first reason that he talks about why it failed was these art companies, they are very tech phobic. So these art galleries, people who work there, they're already kind of people that are really passionate, and they want exclusivity of all, and
they don't want to involve tech and art together.
Yeah, together.
Kind of.
More than that, so if you go to an art gallery and see the painting in person, the amount of confidence you have and the amount of exclusivity you have of just seeing the art in front of you is way more than just seeing art like
on
online on the screen. So they would rather load and unload the photo and like the art every day than put it up online so that anybody, any Tom, Dick and Harry who doesn't have the actual intention to buy it can see it. But then it's 2019. We can probably think of 6-7 different levels of income just through selling art online. But this was 2005. E-commerce wasn't as huge and as global as it is now. What do you think about that perspective?
I guess handicrafts and artworks there are a lot of e-commerce sites right now who are just surviving selling artworks, right? And then what do you think about it?
I mean, now let's say if you had a subscription based service and you design like cartoons, you can have a platform where I know there's several of those platforms where you can just design cartoons and people can buy into it, like just paying subscriptions. Patreon comes to mind. We have a Patreon too if you want to support.
Even memes are artworks, right?
Yeah, memes are artworks, and like
it's a huge internet thing.
Yeah, so Reddit is not just about memes, but then I'm gonna mention 9gag, iFunny, and those companies like that. They make a lot of money just through ads and stuff. But he talks about how he went like head on with his first idea, and like the people were skeptical about the Arctics thing, and he calls this the Arctics phase. And the other thing about this is he pushed his co-founder Robert at that time to move into it. He didn't buy it, his co-founder, but then it seemed promising, and even when they decided to do it for free, people wouldn't buy that service. So that was a lesson that we can all learn from, even us, like with this whole podcast and like thing right now, we're not making money, but then we have like a plan how to make money. But are people willing to take our advice?
Yeah, that's more important when you're starting a startup
or doing a business, any business.
In any business, you must think how to make money.
Yeah, revenue.
If you're passionate about something, there has to be some source of money.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing about
it's eventually gonna fail.
Yeah, and then he mentions how Paul Allen and Bill Gates started another company right before Microsoft. It was called Trafford Data. And nobody remembers Trafford Data except for this dude, because he researched this essay really well. And then now he talks also about like dragging his co-founder into the business. Now it seems like the whole idea is why I want to do this today, and like why this essay is so much important for us individually, is because we need to understand we need to make money too. When you have any business, you want to make money, and the first thing you do is like start making like revenue from day one. That'd be the best business. And he also talks about that.
But then we cannot expect revenue from day one. Though, but we should expect some revenue source though in the long run.
Let's say even if you don't make money on your first day, you should have like a clear picture. Like I was watching this other YouTube thing, and then this is a really important thing. This guy named Chris Van Vliet said while he was interviewing Dave Bautista, he's like, vague goals gives you vague results. So you need to have like actual like bona fide goals for the end of the year or anything, and then that's what gets you goals. If you have vague goals, you're gonna go into vague directions, and then you're not gonna proceed well. Let's say you have a startup, and then you don't have any amount of planning on how much money you want to make on your first year, or let's say first 5 years. You're not gonna make that money. You're not gonna make any money, as far as I understand from this essay.
Yeah, you have to set a vague goal, just like Amazon has a vague goal.
No, I was saying something.
Yeah.
Okay. You said a vague vision, so it's not a vague vision.
Okay.
But a goal is different, right?
Goal is different.
Remember that thing. So you have a goal. Let's say you want to win a match by 3-1. That's a goal, right? That's like you work towards it, you might get that result. But you might win 2-1, but you might not get 3-1, but you actually won. But then you say your vision should be, I'm gonna win the World Cup or tournament in like this many years. That's a goal, but then if you put a number to it, you can say,
it's not vague.
It's not vague. There's this other interview I was watching, or podcast I was watching. It was from Joe Rogan's podcast, and this guy named Naval Ravikant, who also curates Angel List. You might want to check out. The links are in the description. He was talking about how in his first company, before he started, right before 6 months before he wanted to leave, he told everyone he was going to leave in 6 months. So every time somebody would meet up with him, he would be like, why are you not leaving this? Why are you not doing that? So that was kind of the way I understood and how correlated his speech to this essay. Now we're gonna move on to the second part of the essay, or like the second stage,
the still
life effect. So he starts with why does that happen, and he also talks about how his idea was so lame, and then we see this trend a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in our country. If you're watching from a developing country or a developed country, they're too in love with their ideas, and they don't think about revenue, or they don't think about doing due diligence in terms of research, or even when thinking in terms of an empathetic situation. You should stand yourself in the shoes of a customer. I mean, you might think art, and like he mentions this like in his first paragraph of this part, where art and tech mix together and they go well, but then when you move on from that point, you got to understand, not all people think like you in the same industry, right? What's your take on that?
Different people have different perspective, they have different ideas, and you cannot compare two people with the same thing, right?
Now, he also mentions, like a couple of paragraphs later, I was trying to find that, the idea of plunging. He says plunging head on is not bad, but then plunging head on with your first idea without like sitting a few days and thinking, that's what he did, and that's how he convinced his co-founder. And it was something that was wrong in his head. So this kind of relates back to the first part of his essay where we talked about earlier. There's like promising people with unpromising ideas. So he did eventually succeed in a company called Via Web. Of course he succeeded because he was one of the first.
Maybe this was a promising idea and the Arctics part was not.
Yeah, exactly.
Promising.
Exactly. That's what happened.
That's what happened.
And then there's other parts about like how he was going to name the thing WebGen, or from Via Web, it was going to name it Web Via or something like that. But then if you really look at this essay, it's like it's not only a slice of time, but it's timeless in itself too. Most of the things that he talks about is so much related
it's
to
still contextual right
now.
It's an old essay, 14-year-old essay,
but it's still contextual. In the same area, he talks about how even in his new company from which he moved on from like the Arctics thing is via web, and he just did that through a random name generator. So what he did was he took a 3-letter word and another 3-letter word, and he mismatched, and he got something called web via, and then from there he went, oh, why don't I switch it in via web? For 3 days he didn't think that was a good idea, but after that he really fell into love with that, and then he talks about that a little bit.
Yeah, it
might
sounds
want to check it out.
so good. Via web sounds very good,
and it's a successful company. Somebody bought it. I think it talks about Yahoo buying it. I don't know. Somebody. Okay. So from there on, there's another title called Muck, M-U-C-K. So this other thing about this is where like something that can really help Nepali entrepreneurs and startups is he talks about why he jumped into it, because he thought joining art galleries with the internet was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't do something that's just because it's cool. He reminisces his father's saying about whenever there's muck, there's grass. Whenever grass means money. So if you have to do the dirty work, you're gonna have to, go through so many other things. So sometimes you might not have to do something that is really ravishing, or that is something glamorous. You can do something that is really mundane and you can still make monies. You can't serve two masters. You can't want to be really cool and have a lot of money, and at the same time you can't want to be like a really cool, just a cool startup and like making money. Those for some
might go hand in hand,
but most of the companies don't want to. Who wants to go and like start a business where people have to just write things every day? They just have to transcribe. But if then you wanted to make like a open CV algorithm or something like that, and you sell it online, something like that. I don't know a lot about programming, but if you did that, it seems so cool. But then would people be able to adopt that in Nepal? That's the whole point. I was struggling with this, but then I was thinking Nepal in terms of Kathmandu only, but then the capital city and outside of Nepal are two different countries. And then you have to adapt to what you were
way of living, mindset. It's completely different.
And then who wants to do like really mundane work? Would you rather go and just start working in an assembly line? You'd get paid really well, but then you don't want to go work in an assembly line, right? But then he also talks about the most important thing is making money doesn't happen by accident. You have to work towards it. If you know how to make money by accident, you have the superpower, please let me know. But then